Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because this week we are reading the entire Shatter Me series. I'm actually shocked that I haven't gotten any spoilers for this entire series because this series is so old and I'm so behind on the hype for this series, but like I said, I have successfully avoided all of the spoilers so far. So literally all I know about this series going into it is that it is a YA dystopian series and that's pretty much it. So we're gonna jump right in with knowing very little about this entire series because that's just how I like to read, you know? I like to know the bare minimum going into it. And of course, this entire video will be spoiler free. It is the next morning. I only made it to page 74 last night, which is chapter 13, and I'm actually really enjoying this book right now. Like I said, it's a dystopian, so basically we start out with our main character locked in a cell. You don't really know why she's locked in there. You get kind of like pieces and bits of information as we go along with the story. But it does say on the back that she is locked in a cell by the reestablishment, a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world. And then basically the reestablishment is kind of trying to use her as a weapon. So like I said, I'm only on page 74, but we've already seen her go from being locked in a cell to, I guess, kind of working for the reestablishment. I don't really know yet because I'm still so early on into the book, but I am actually really liking how this book is written. It's funny because I kind of like went like this with the book before reading it and I was like, oh, why is there a bunch of things like crossed out in my book? Like this is so weird. But there's literally an author's note at the beginning that's like, my character is meant to be like this, like all of the crossed out is on purpose. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad that she added that author's note because I would have figured it out eventually, but at first I was like, what is going on here? But I actually really like being in the mind of our main character. She's a little bit sporadic and I feel like as the story goes on, she's going to become less sporadic and a bit more of like a reliable narrator, because right now I feel like she's a little bit unreliable, but she is 17, so she's quite young to already have been going through all of this, and she's been locked up. I think it's a little bit less than a year. At the beginning she had like a countdown and I think it said 266 days of being locked up and like not talking to a single other person, which is insane. And the way that she was treated while she was locked up was also crazy. But I'm gonna go back to reading. I am really enjoying this book and I'm excited to see where the story goes from here. We need to talk because I actually finished Shatter Me last night. I had no idea that I was about to finish this book. My Kindle literally said I had like an hour and a half left of it or something like that, and then I just like flipped the page and the epilogue started. I was like, what? Huh? But they had it at my public library and I didn't realize that the public library version of Shatter Me had the novella inside of it. And also just like this book just abruptly ends. Am I the only one that thinks that? When it ended, I was like, there were no signs that this book was gonna end, and it just also, I don't know, it ended kind of weird to me. I was like, why is this the last scene that we're ending with? Like, that is weird. But anyway, let me tell you about my thoughts with Shatter Me. Literally halfway through this book, I was convinced, like actually so convinced that I knew what was going to happen in this book. Like I just thought I knew what was going on. I was wrong, okay? But I do like the fact that I was wrong, and I like the way the book kind of like took a turn. It was unexpected to me and I liked that. But there's one thing in this book that I just don't really like, and I feel like it is going to become even bigger of a plot than it was in this book, like in the rest of the series, and that's the romance. And I think that this is a really hot take. I don't know, because I've been trying to avoid anything Shatter Me related on the internet, and like I feel like this book had its time, you know? So it's been a while since I've heard anyone talk about this book, but I don't like Adam. Is that a hot take, or do other people agree with me? Or am I just like on my own on an island over here? Also, this is so unrelated, and I am so sorry if your name is Adam. Please don't take this personally. But why is our main male character named Adam? I just feel like his name does not fit him. I don't know why, but I will like die on that hill. He's not Adam. He's Kent to me, okay? Because Kent is like that's a main male character name to me. I like the name Kent. Anyways, that was fully unrelated to the actual story. I just don't like the romance in this book. I felt like it was way too insta-lovey. Like, what do you mean? Like, you guys just met. Like, I understand, like, you know what I mean? And that's, I feel like that's all that I can really say about like the romance without spoiling anything. But also in my mind, this book is a fantasy book. I don't know why I keep thinking that. It is a dystopian 100%, but all of my predictions were like, Morgan, this is not a fantasy book. Like if this was a fantasy book, yeah, that's how that would have ended, but it's not. It's a dystopian, but also I really love the way that this is written. Like, I picked out a quote in the book that I wanted to talk about, but there's also so many times that I've highlighted in my Kindle, which I never do. Like, I never highlight quotes in my Kindle, but this book, I just love it. There's like just little bits and pieces throughout this book that I'm like, oh, I like how she wrote that. Like, she could have just said, he kissed me, but she'll be like, blah, 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 you know? And it's just like so much better than if she was just like straight shooting it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I had a really big coffee this morning. I feel like I'm all over the place. But the quote I picked out as an example, his body presses closer to me and I realize I'm paying attention to nothing but the dandelions blowing wishes in my lungs. I like that. I like that a lot. Let me see if I have any other good examples on my Kindle. I feel like I do. Okay, I do have a couple good ones on my Kindle. I feel like these are actually better. My pockets are full of letters I can't string together and I'm so desperate to say something that I say nothing. I don't know what it is. I just love that. Okay, last one because I don't want to read too many quotes. I'm too poor to afford the luxury of hysteria right now. I don't know. I just really like the writing style of this. And like I said, I finished Shatter Me and then I did immediately start the novella last night simply because I just like to read until I'm actually falling asleep in bed. But anyways, I made it to chapter 6 in the novella. This one actually has 2 novellas in it and I'm only going to read the Destroy Me novella and then I'll read the second novella, Fracture Me, after I read the second book. This is the reading order I'm following, by the way. I found it on Pinterest and it's also the same exact reading order that is on Goodreads. So it's kind of confusing when I have like the books that don't have the novellas in the actual like physical copy, because I don't know why they included multiple novellas in every single one of these books. But anyways, I'm on chapter 6 and I'm actually obsessed with the point of view that we get in this book, because the other book is only our main character's point of view. Like, we only get the point of view of Juliet. So this is our first time in someone else's point of view. And I feel like it just makes so much sense to the story. And I saw online that you really don't need to read every novella that goes along with this series, but I'm really liking this novella. And I don't know, I obviously haven't read the second book yet, but I feel like it's going to bridge it perfectly for us. And I have no idea what like the publication order of any of these books or anything like that, but I am loving being in someone else's point of view. And I actually, is this another hot take? I don't know. I actually really like this character and I feel like being in this character's point of view is making me like this character more. Like, in the other book, this character was a little bit like, like, I feel like you're gonna have a great character arc later in the book, but like right now, you're not my favorite, you know? And so in this one, I'm like, yup, here's the beginning of your character arc. I can smell it. All of that to say, I am really enjoying these books. I don't know about my rating for Shatter Me yet. I feel like I need to think about it. I don't know. I'm kind of liking this novella more than I liked Shatter Me, simply because of the romance. And that's also making me scared for the rest of the books. Like, I'm not rooting for them. And I need to be able to root for them if I'm gonna like these books. But anyway, I feel like I just yapped for so long. I'm gonna keep reading and then I will probably start the next book, hopefully today. We'll see. We have got some catching up to do, okay? Because last time I spoke, I was reading the Destroy Me novella, I believe, and I finished that, and I think I was saying I really like the point of view of that one, and that still holds true. I did really enjoy that novella. I think if I was going to rate the novella like by itself, I think I would give it even like a 4.5 star. I really enjoyed that novella. I think part of it is that it was the first time that we were in someone new's point of view. Like, this entire series, at least so far, is in Juliet's point of view, and then when you go to the novellas, you get someone else's point of view. But the only thing that I have an issue with the novellas, at least so far, is that it's nothing new. It's just kind of like what's going on in someone else's point of view. Actually, that's not entirely true. I feel like part of the novella is just like what's going on in someone else's point of view, and then you do learn new things, and that like kind of helps the story progress. But it is nice to be in someone else's point of view because, like I said, these entire books so far are from Juliet's point of view. I have actually started and finished Unravel Me since we last spoke. I've been trying to not talk way too long, or I feel like this video is going to be super long because we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more books left. So it's going to take me a while to get through all of these. But like I said, I have already read Unravel Me and I'm having some issues with this one because, like I said, the novella, it almost takes place congruently between this book and the previous book. Like, it takes place maybe a chapter or 2 before Shatter Me ends, and then it bleeds into what's going on in this book. So the whole first like I don't know, maybe 30-ish% of this book. It's nothing really new. Like, you already know what's going to happen, but you're getting it from Juliet's point of view. And something about me, I don't know why I'm like this, but that almost like makes me antsy, just in the sense of like, I just want to hurry up and like get that over with so I can get something new. So I felt like I was trying to almost rush through the beginning of this book because not that I was bored, but I was just like, I don't really care to hear it from someone else's point of view, especially when I'm reading all of these like back to back like I am. I feel like I just don't need it told to me two different ways, literally back to back, like I said. So that kind of sucks. I'm almost like, if this keeps happening like this, maybe I just skip the novellas. I don't know, because I do enjoy hearing from other people's point of views, and I don't really want to skip the novellas. Ugh, my cat has decided he needs to go potty. 1 second. You know how sometimes you go to Dunkin' and it's like really good, and sometimes it tastes just like they made it and threw it on the floor and then like swept it up? Today, absolutely amazing. This is so good today. Anyway, I think I was just saying that I didn't really enjoy the first half of this book, but the second half of this book was so good. I feel like we really got a lot of action in the second part of the book, and I don't feel like I was able to predict anything, which is really nice. My cat has the zoomies. Anyways, I do not like being able to predict things. So with that being said, I feel like I only really enjoyed the second half of this book. So I think I might give it a 3.5, because 3 feels like I'm being too harsh and a 4-star feels like I'm being too nice, you know? So I feel like a 3.5. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. Maybe I'll change my rating, who knows? But I have already started the Shatter Me novella, which is inside of my little Unite Me bind up. And I am enjoying this one more than I thought I would, simply because the point of view that this one is in is from a character that I don't like. And I feel like it's actually kind of helping me like him a little bit more. And it's also kind of interesting to see like what's going on at the end of Unravel Me, but like congruently. What? Does this make sense? I don't know. But when I was reading Unravel Me, I was like, okay, but what happened to Adam? Like, what's going on with Adam? Like, I wanted to know what he was doing while everything else was going down. So it was nice to pick up this novella and be like, oh, okay, so now I get to find out what he was doing. So I am pretty close to finishing this novella. I mean, the novellas are super tiny. And then this one also has some of Juliet's journals in it, which I am so excited to read her journals. I love journals in books or letters or anything like that. When a book has those kind of aspects in it, I love it. I'm gonna go read this novella. Like I said, I'm almost finished with it. And then I'm gonna start the next book, which is Ignite Me. Also, this is funny to me. I wrote out this little note to myself, Shatter Me first, just because I was worried that I would forget to read the novella before reading this one. I don't know, I thought that was funny. I finished this book like an hour or so ago, and I actually really liked the ending, but like I said, there's a section in this book of Juliet's journals, and I don't really know why they're in here, because it's mostly repeats, or we've had like snippets of the journal entry, but not the entire journal entry. So honestly, that was kind of annoying, because I was already a little bit annoyed with the repetition, because something I forgot to say earlier, I literally wrote it down so that I could remember, but I noticed that she uses similar phrases throughout the books, and I don't know if a normal person would have noticed that, because I don't know how many people will like sit and binge an entire series like this. I don't know, I love to do this, but I feel like that's part of why I noticed this. She uses similar phrases multiple times, and I don't like the repetition at all, especially because it's such similar phrases, and it's like, okay, we've already done this, like move on. And it's like unique phrases, but she repeats them. So like unique as in you would not have read it in a different book, most likely, but not unique to the book, because she uses it maybe 2, sometimes 3 times. But it'll say something along the lines of like, I can't find any words in my pockets, or like the adverbs and adjectives are flowing around me. And it's like things like that, like very specific ways to say that she doesn't know what to say. And so that is just a little bit annoying. That's the only thing I really wanted to say. We are now moving on to book 3, which is Ignite Me. And also, I believe that this series used to originally only be a trilogy. So I'm interested to see how things change after this book is done, but we're gonna hop right into this one. I'm on page 184, and I only have one thing I need to say right now, and it's to Adam. I just want to say your behavior is exactly why I don't like you, and I haven't liked you since the first book. Okay, your behavior in the very beginning of this book, prime example of why I don't like you. That's all. Other than that, I'm having a great time. I'm actually really liking this book so far, and I spend a lot of my day wishing that I could be sitting and reading it. So that's a good sign. I finished Ignite Me yesterday. I think that this is my favorite of the series so far, and I would probably give this a 4.5 star. I obviously really enjoyed it. It just did not give me that 5-star feeling. I feel like part of what is a little bit weird to me about this book is the turn Adam's character takes in the beginning of this book compared to like the books before this one. It just kind of felt like it was a little bit too out of the blue, but also in some ways it did make sense because of everything that literally everyone was going through in these books. It was just like the way he reacted to what was happening I just did not like, even though it just like emphasized that I already didn't like Adam's character, but it felt like it wasn't super like his character it just felt like it wasn't super like his character to behave that way, and it almost felt like it was done intentionally so that we wouldn't like him, even though like I said I already did not like him, but still it just felt a little bit too purposeful. And the way that this book ends is genuinely so abrupt that I was shocked, because it was originally a trilogy, so like this was originally the last book, and even the author's note in here says something like, "It is my very great hope that you will find this a worthy final installment," and it just like ends. Like if she didn't continue the rest of the series, I would have been like, what? Like that's it? I definitely would have wanted way more information, even if it was just one book, because the ending just felt so abrupt to me, and it kind of almost felt like we ended like a scene after the climax. So I'm very glad she decided to keep writing in this world. I don't know if I'm the majority in that opinion. I feel like a lot of people have said that the original trilogy is like their favorite and they don't love the rest of the books, but I made it to page 101 in Restore Me, which also the way that this book is, it's like kind of weird to me because each beginning of like a chapter just goes like this. Like it's like 2 blank pages worth, and it's like, okay, this book feels so thick, but really there's just a bunch of empty pages in here. And also there's no like number of the chapters, which makes it so hard for me to switch between the physical book and the Kindle, which is what I've been doing for pretty much this entire series, because most of the series was available at my public library, so I've been like downloading it on my Kindle as well. Anyways, that's just like a random side note. That has nothing to do with the book. But so far this one's a little bit confusing to me in the sense that it takes place right after Ignite Me. Like I think it's maybe like 2 weeks in between these 2 books, maybe less, I'm not entirely sure. No, it is definitely less actually, now that I think about it. It takes place like literally right after Ignite Me, maybe a day or 2. But it's weird to me because it feels like these characters have changed so much, and it's only supposed to have been a couple days. Granted, a lot has happened in a couple days, but still I'm like, how did you guys change those fast? But I'm wondering if that is just because the author decided to take a couple years off between like this book and the book before, because like I said, she ended up extending the series. And I wonder if because I know that, it's making me kind of like pay closer attention. And obviously 2 years is a lot. Like that gives her a lot of time to grow and change her writing. So I feel like maybe that just has something to do with it, and it's not actually that like a ton has changed with their individual characters. And I am so excited to see where the story goes and how our characters end up growing up, because I don't think it's even been a full year since the first book. Like I think that they are all the same age, so I'm hoping that in the rest of the series we kind of get to see them grow up a little bit more, like literally grow up, not like figuratively. Like they're definitely maturing and changing as the books go on, but I want to see them as they get older. Like hopefully at some point in the series we see them like 5 years from now. I feel like that would be ideal for me, just because I'm so curious. Like I'm at the point where they're real people to me, which I feel like at this point in a series, is this book 4? Yes, 4, but 2 novellas. I feel like they should feel like real characters to me, and they do. So that is a win for sure. We need to talk because I am almost done with Restore Me. I am so close to finishing this. I think I have like a chapter or 2 left, but I'm conflicted because the whole beginning of this book, I was like, oh yeah, I'm obsessed with this book. It is so good. This might be my favorite so far. And then things took a little bit of a turn because we're focusing on the romance a lot, which I didn't really mind. And I think that's partly because this is the first book in the series where it's split between Juliet point of view, and I do really like that it's split between both point of views, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense for the story. But there's a little bit of the miscommunication trope in this book, and sometimes that doesn't bother me, but the way that it is done in this one bothers me, just in the sense that she's kind of like, oh, I can't trust you now. Maybe it's not miscommunication. Yeah, he should have told you, but like, just forgive him. And that's coming from me. I never forgive book characters ever, and I'm telling her to just forgive him. You know, like, oh, how the tables have turned, because that's wild. Wild that I would say that, but I feel like that just emphasizes that I feel like she should just forgive him, because it's like, it's a sticky situation, you know? But since that happened, I'm a little bit wishy-washy, and I'm also like, oh, this kind of sucks if I don't get a 5-star at all from any of these books. I would be kind of sad, but we have like 4 or 5 books left still, if I'm including the novellas, I think, maybe, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm gonna go sit and finish this one, and then I will probably also start the novella as well, because I'm literally so close to finishing this. I wish so badly that I filmed me finishing this book, because why did I gasp multiple times? I feel like I have not had a book do this to me in a while. Like, truly, the ending left me speechless. Like, I was genuinely shocked at this ending, and it made me immediately want to pick up the next book, which is a little bit disappointing because in the reading order that I'm following, the next book is the novella, which I did start, but I knew the novella wouldn't take place right after this book. Like, I figured it would take place kind of concurrently with this book, at least just because of how the rest of the novellas have been so far. But anyways, the ending of this book genuinely makes me want to like bump up my rating, which right now, I don't know what I'm gonna rate this book. It is definitely my favorite so far, so maybe it's a 4.5. It was just like a little bit annoying at some parts with the romance, which I feel like I already kind of explained to the best of my ability with this video being spoiler free. Genuinely, I loved the ending so much. I feel like that's what this book needed, and I'm just so intrigued on what is going to happen from here. And then I did start the next novella, which this one has the next 2 novellas in it, but I started the Shatter Me novella, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I like that at least so far the novellas have given us different point of views. Like, this is a different point of view than we've experienced so far, and I feel like that is really exciting, and it's also helping us get to know all of these different characters. And the point of view that we are in for this novella is with a character that I actually really like, and I feel like he just brings a little bit of like the comedic relief to the entire series, and I actually really liked him at the beginning of the series as well. He was just like one of those characters that I feel like you meet them and you like them, but then as you get to know them, you're like, oh yeah, this is a really good character. And I don't mean this as an insult at all. I feel like this could come off as an insult, but I feel like this character is giving sidekick vibes in the best way possible. Like, Batman had Robin for a reason, you know? Anyway, I'm gonna go sit and read. Next time you see me, I will probably have finished this novella because it is so short. We need to talk because it's been a couple of days and I finished the Shatter Me novella. I did like that one. It is so hard for me to rate novellas because, I mean, they're so small. It feels like I'm just reading like one long chapter, but it was our first time in this character's point of view, and I did really enjoy that. And I also feel like it kind of helped connect the dots a little bit of like the behind the scenes of what happened in the last book. So I did like the novella. I'm just currently unsure how I want to rate it. And we have a lot of catching up to do because I also read Defy Me, like fully just read the entire thing. I went through this in like a day and a half, I think, maybe, I don't know, maybe less than that actually. But once I started listening to the audiobook, I just kind of like devoured this whole book, and not really in a good way. Actually, not in a good way at all. I mostly just devoured this book because I didn't like it and I wanted to get it over with. And I hate saying that because obviously I've had such a grand fun time with the rest of these books, but this one has been my least favorite of all of them. And I think I'm either gonna give it a 2.5 or a 3-star because, like I said, it was just not my favorite. And there were a lot of flashbacks in this book that I guess they're necessary for the story, and maybe we'll figure out why at some point. I just didn't really care about the flashbacks because most of the flashbacks were when our characters were much younger. And I'm talking like some of the flashbacks, they were 5 years old. And I was literally thinking in my head, like, this is not something a normal 5-year-old would do. And literally in the book, it was like, we didn't have normal childhoods. It said that right after I was thinking that. So that was kind of funny. But also it was just like, I don't really care. And I couldn't make myself care. I almost feel like this book made me not really like Juliet. So I didn't like that either. And then the end felt so mushy gushy. And I was like, This is so opposite of what this entire series has been like, so I'm really intrigued to see where things pick up from here because I didn't think it would be kind of like mushy-gushy like that, but I do kind of feel like there's been more romance since the original trilogy ended. So like, I guess I would say starting at Restore Me, there was some more romance compared to the rest of the books. I don't think it's like too much romance, but like I said, it did not love that one, so I'm excited to keep going with the rest of the books and hopefully I will like those a little bit more. I feel bad that I didn't update at all while reading that one, but I hate talking bad about any book. Hopefully things will turn around for me. I am going to start the Reveal Me novella next and we'll just see where it goes. It's been a while since we last talked, so we need to do a little 3-book update. You guys know that I don't like to do a ton of talking about books negatively, and I did not love the last 3 books, so I didn't want to just like harp on and on about the same things. So I'm just going to talk about the last 3 books right now. I also decided to do it like this because I was scared that this video would be super long. I haven't edited a single clip from this video, so I have no idea how long it's going to be. And also, since it's spoiler free, there's not a ton I can say. So we're gonna just jump right into the novella. I think I was maybe almost done with this the last time we spoke, but this is the Find Me, specifically the Reveal Me novella. And honestly, I just feel like all of these novellas are like 3-ish stars for me. Like this novella did not wow me by any means, but they are definitely important to the story. So it's really interesting to me how this entire series is written because you can't just like skip the novellas, at least in my opinion. Like towards the beginning of the series, I feel like they were less important, but I feel like these 2 novellas, specifically the Shatter Me and Reveal Me novellas, you can't skip because you get things revealed in these novellas. But earlier in the series, like in the Unite Me novellas, I feel like you could potentially skip those. Now, I don't recommend doing that, but I'm saying you could if you wanted to. And then I read Imagine Me, which is the last full book in this series. And I think I'm gonna give this a 3-star. And technically at the end of this novella, I think is when you find out, or maybe at the end of the last book, you find out something that is like going to happen, I guess, or like it's hard to describe, but you find something out and it is just so unrealistic that it was so annoying to me. And not that these books are supposed to be realistic, but when it happened, like all I could think was, you are 17. Like, your character is supposed to be a child. This makes no sense. And it does kind of talk about age a little bit in the book, and like you kind of go into it. And like, yeah, that makes a little bit of sense, but you don't go into it until like later in the book. So the whole beginning of the book, I was like, this is just so dumb. Like, why are they doing this? And then another note that I just didn't like about this book is that this book is so graphic for no reason. Like, it genuinely made me want to be like, are you okay? Like, the rest of the series was not this graphic, and then we get to this one and it's like, does someone need to check on the author? Like, are you okay? What happened? And that might just be a me thing because honestly, I am pretty sensitive to anything that's like super graphic like that. So if you are also that way, I feel like this one might not be for you as well. And those were my main gripes with this, and I just like didn't enjoy it. Like, I had a really hard time making myself care about this book as well as the last book, which is, I think it's technically a novella, but it's honestly just an extended epilogue. This is Believe Me, and I think I'm gonna give this a 2.5 star because by this point in the series, I did not care about at all. And that's what this entire book is. And I feel bad saying that, but I just like genuinely could not care about them at all. And it's crazy because in the beginning of the series, oh, I just accidentally spoiled something. I liked them in the beginning of the series when like it was first introduced and all of that. I really liked them. And then just things just like, I don't know. I feel like part of the reason that I kind of stopped caring about these books is because I stopped enjoying Juliet's character for some reason. And I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but there was just kind of like a switch for me in between, I think maybe books 4 and 5, so Restore Me and Defy Me, where I just stopped enjoying her character. And I am such a characters person. I have to like the characters or I'm not gonna like the books, and I feel like that is part of why things kind of just fell a little flat for me towards the end of the series. Plus, I feel like all of these books could have been one book and we could have just ended up with like the original trilogy plus Restore Me and then one more book with all of this in it. It just felt like things were getting dragged out way longer than it needed to be, which was very disappointing. And also, I feel like all of these books were pretty romance heavy. I can't remember for sure if I felt that way about Defy Me, but I definitely felt that way about the rest of the other books in this little stack here. So I did not love the turn that the series took, but I would definitely still 100% recommend this series. I got a 5-star read out of it. Restore Me was by far my favorite, which I feel like might not be common for everyone. I feel like everyone talks about these first original trilogy and not really the rest of the books, but I loved these. Like honestly, I would say you could stop reading at Restore Me if you wanted to. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what other book series you want me to read in this format. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!